You keep telling yourself you have a focus problem. You don't, at least not in the way you think. Because the strange part is, you can focus. You can spend 3 hours scrolling without noticing time. You can obsess over one text message for half a day. You can replay a conversation from last week with terrifying clarity at 2:13 a.m. while staring at the ceiling. So no, your brain isn't broken. Something else is happening. Something far more uncomfortable. Your brain is being trained by things that profit from your distraction. And the worst part? You probably call it normal. You wake up. Before your eyes fully adjust, your hand reaches for your phone, not consciously, not intentionally. It's automatic. Notification, message, short video, another one, then another. Dopamine before daylight. And at first, this feels harmless. Everyone does it, right? You're only checking for a minute, but a minute becomes 20. Then you rush through the morning with low-grade anxiety you can't explain. You feel behind before the day even starts. Sound familiar? Here's what most people miss. Hijacking doesn't always feel violent. Sometimes it feels convenient, pleasant, entertaining. That's what makes it dangerous. If someone tried to control your brain by force, you'd resist. But if they offer stimulation, novelty, validation, comfort, you volunteer. And this changes everything. Because now the threat isn't external. It's internalized. Your own habits become the weapon. You start saying things like, I need more discipline. I need to stop procrastinating. I need to try harder. Maybe. But wait until you realize what's really happening. You're trying to fight a billion-dollar attention economy using raw willpower after 5 hours of sleep and chronic mental fatigue. That's like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight and somehow blaming yourself for losing. No wonder you feel exhausted. But the strange part is, the hijack goes deeper than distraction. Way deeper. It's not only stealing your focus, it's rewriting your internal world. Think about how often you consume other people's lives, their routines, their bodies, their money, their relationships, their success. You open an app for 5 minutes. Suddenly you've seen 50 people doing better than you, or at least appearing to. And your nervous system doesn't care that it's curated. It reacts as if all of it is real. That's when the real problem begins. Comparison stops feeling like comparison. It becomes identity. Without noticing, you absorb messages. It's like, I'm behind. I'm late. I'm not enough. I should be more disciplined. I should have figured this out by now. Nobody said those words to you. You said them to yourself. But here's what nobody realizes. Many of your thoughts don't feel implanted because they arrive in your own voice. That's what makes hijacking so effective. It doesn't sound like manipulation. It sounds like you. Read that again. Some of the thoughts you trust most may not actually be yours. Sit with that. Because if your inner dialogue has been shaped by algorithms, endless comparison, chronic stimulation, childhood conditioning, fear, and emotional avoidance, then who exactly is doing the thinking? And no, this isn't some conspiracy theory. This is quieter, more personal, more disturbing, because it explains something you've probably felt for years. Why you can know what to do and still not do it. Why you can watch self-improvement videos every night and wake up unchanged. Why you can plan the perfect routine, then abandon it by Wednesday. You don't notice it immediately. You think the issue is laziness, or lack of motivation, or weak discipline. But often, the real issue is cognitive overload. Too much input, too little silence, too much stimulation, too little presence. Your brain never gets to hear itself clearly. Imagine trying to listen to one quiet voice in a stadium full of screaming people. That voice is you. The screaming, everything else. Notifications, opinions, fear, content, urgency, noise, and eventually, you lose contact with your own signal. This is where things start falling apart. Because once you lose your signal, something subtle happens. You stop living intentionally. and start reacting. To mood, to cravings, to discomfort, to whatever screams loudest. Check phone, refresh inbox, open app, switch tabs, snack, scroll again. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. The hijacker doesn't always win because it's powerful. It wins because it's predictable. It knows something about you. You hate discomfort. Not pain. Discomfort. There's a difference. Pain is obvious. Discomfort is subtle. It's the 3 seconds before starting the hard task. The silence after closing every app. The moment you sit alone with your thoughts and feel restless. That restless feeling, that's the withdrawal. Not from drugs, from stimulation. And this is the part most people miss. The moment you remove constant input, buried things start surfacing. Fear, regret, loneliness, anger, unprocessed shame. That weird emptiness you keep outrunning. Now you understand why silence feels so loud. The scrolling was never only about entertainment. It was anesthesia, a socially accepted sedative, a way to avoid contact with yourself. And maybe that lands a little too hard, because maybe you've done this. Open YouTube while eating, scroll while using the bathroom, play something while working, sleep with background noise, wake up and repeat, constant input, constant escape. No stillness, no contact, no signal, and then you wonder why clarity feels impossible. But the strange part is your brain hasn't forgotten how to be clear. It's waiting, under the noise, under the conditioning, under the hijack. Still there, still yours. Which means recovery doesn't start with becoming someone new. It starts with interruption, breaking the loop, even briefly, not forever. Just enough to notice. Notice what triggers the grab for your phone. Notice what emotion shows up before distraction. Notice what thought appears before avoidance. This changes everything. Because awareness breaks automation. The moment you observe the pattern, you are no longer fully inside it. That tiny gap, that's power. Small, quiet, but real. The gap between impulse and action. Between urge and obedience. Between thought and belief. That's where freedom returns, not all at once, but piece by piece. Maybe tomorrow morning, before touching your phone. You sit for 30 seconds. That's it. 30. And you notice the urge, the itch, the internal pull, your brain screaming, check something, consume something, escape something, and instead of obeying, you watch. That feels small. It isn't. Because every time you don't automatically react, you teach your nervous system something radical. I am not every urge I feel. Read that slowly. You are not every craving, not every intrusive thought, not every emotional impulse, not every fear, and definitely not every algorithmically amplified insecurity. That matters. Because once you understand this, a deeper question appears. If your brain has been hijacked, who are you without the hijacker? Not your habits, not your compulsions, not your conditioning. You, the awareness behind all of it, the observer, the one who notices, the one who can pause, the one who can choose. That version of you has been quiet for a while, not gone. Quiet, buried under noise, but still there, and maybe that's the most relieving truth of all. You do not need to rebuild yourself from nothing. You need to remove interference. That's different. A radio doesn't need a new signal. It needs less static. Maybe your discipline isn't missing. Maybe it's buried. Maybe your focus isn't dead. Maybe it's fragmented. Maybe your confidence isn't gone. Maybe it's suffocating under comparison. See the shift? This stops being a story about self-improvement and becomes a story about self-recovery. You aren't trying to manufacture a better brain. You're reclaiming ownership, taking back territory, thought by thought, choice by choice, moment by moment. And no, this won't feel dramatic. Most real transformation doesn't. There's no cinematic music, no sudden enlightenment. Usually it looks boring. closing the app, putting the phone down, sitting in silence, doing the hard thing before the easy thing, protecting attention like it matters. Because it does. Your attention is more than focus. It is life. Whatever owns your attention shapes your reality, shapes your beliefs, shapes your identity, shapes your future. So ask yourself something uncomfortable. Who has been controlling your attention lately? You or everything competing for you? That question alone can change a life. Because once you see the hijack, you can't unsee it. You start noticing the triggers, the loops, the escapes, the manipulations. And awareness ruins unconscious addiction. That's why this matters. Not to make you paranoid, to make you conscious. There's a massive difference. Conscious people choose. Unconscious people react. So maybe the goal isn't becoming perfectly disciplined. Maybe the goal is simpler, become harder to manipulate, harder to distract, harder to program, more present, more deliberate, more yours. And if this felt uncomfortably personal, good. That discomfort might be signal, not punishment, signal. The part of you that still knows something is off. The part that refuses to disappear. The part still fighting to come back online. Listen to that part. Because underneath all the noise, under the scrolling, comparing, avoiding, and overthinking, you're still there, waiting. And maybe for the first time in a while, you heard yourself.